Hey everybody, welcome back for the cleaning section of this S6 glass only repair. We're going to be using some isopropyl alcohol. This will be 90 proof. Anything above 90 or really close to that could be sufficient for this. Honestly, the glue on this display is pretty tough stuff. What we may be using on this is acetone. You could buy some Loca liquid optical clear adhesive remover. Loca stands for liquid optical clear adhesive. So what this you could also do is put some isopropyl alcohol on it and let it sit for a little bit, and hopefully it'll eat into the glue and kind of soak in. You don't want to use anything metal on this. I see people use razor blades in the past and things like that, and that can end up scratching your screen. So you always want to use a plastic type tool like a spudger like the one I'm using. You don't want to put a lot of pressure onto this display here as well, because you don't want to fracture or crack it at all. That can be something that happens quite frequently during the cleaning and removal process, so just be very careful. You want to use a lot of liquid. If you can, make sure you don't get it on the back of the display at all. We want to retain as much adhesive property on the back of the display as well as you don't want to get any liquid on the back of the board where the ribbon cable puts in to the top of the display. You don't want to short it out at all. So what we try to do is try to keep it just on the display a little bit. So this is the iSesmo tool. You don't want to use anything metal on it. You could end up scratching it. So just be really careful with that. What I would suggest doing on this particular display, and a lot of people aren't happy about it or wouldn't use it, but I've used it a few times and I've been pretty successful with it, is some Goo Gone, this orange. This is basically just sticker remover or Goo Off. Anything that would say it would remove sticky adhesive residue, sticker residue, anything like that. So we're just going to rub it around the screen a little bit and let it soak in. This stuff is just as good as any Loca remover, possibly better. You could also use acetone, high quality acetone, which is like a nail polish remover. As long as it's a high proof of that, it should work as well. That actually will vapor off a little bit faster than anything else. The nice thing about this kind of adhesive remover is it'll just sit here and it won't actually go anywhere or try to vape off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit on the screen for about 20 minutes or so. We'll come back and take a look and see what we can scrape off of it. Alright, so we've let it set for a little bit, and we can take our scraper tool here, just a spudger, and work our way down the screen. You can see that, man, this stuff just comes off so much easier now that we've let it set. You could also try some heat if you wanted to, but honestly, I don't want to put any heat directly on the display without any glass on it. So really what you're working on top of right here is the digitizer, the thing that takes the touch sensor. It's kind of built into the screen, and I believe it's the first layer of Amoleds. Don't quote me on that, not 100%, but so you want to be fairly gentle as you do this, but want to get as much of this glue off as possible. So we're just going to work our way down the screen with a spudger, get as much of this off as we can, and then we can work it with a microfiber cloth. And make sure we don't scratch it at all, but then get the remaining adhesive off of it. Really, you want this thing to be debris free. You want all the adhesive off of it. You don't want anything left on this display, because that'll really show up when you put your new glue on. So just go through and clean it up as nice as you can possibly get it. Just take your scraper and be pretty diligent in getting it off, and really try to have some sort of a napkin or something ready to kind of handle this, because you have all the Goo Gone on it, and the stuff gets pretty sticky when it gets into its kind of liquid state. So just be aware of that as you're starting to remove it. It can be turned into a mess, and what you want to make sure you don't do is get this stuff on the back of the display. So keep it nice and flat, work it off to the corners, and then make sure you kind of pull it off a little bit. Don't get it everywhere on your work surface and then put the display on top of it. You don't want that going into the circuit board on the back of the display, because it'll end up shorting it out. If you're just using isopropyl alcohol, you get some solely some isopropyl alcohol on it. It's not a big deal. That stuff will evaporate. Just make sure you let it dry for quite some time. But this stuff, it won't dry at all, so that's what you want to be careful with. Especially across here on the top. Normally, on the top of the display, you'll have a basically some Loca that's underneath the copper tape here as well. You want to try to get that out if you can as well. clean up the sides. Now, if you haven't caught on, this is definitely for your advanced phone repair people. If you've done this before, this one is probably one of the trickiest that I've ever ran across doing. Getting it out without it cracking and all of that stuff. It's a pretty tricky display to remove. Kind of reminds me of the older style Samsung phones like the S3, where all that stuff was taped into the mid frame. Kind of going back to that era of the phone. So just make sure if you're going to do this that you either have this money to spend on a brand new display, or that you've done it before. It'll make it a little bit easier on you. So now that we've got a lot of the residue glue removed, we're going to go ahead and clean it up with some alcohol. And what this will do is help us remove the goof off, or the goo gone, from the front of the display. We don't want any of that stuff left on it when we go to put the glue on. We want to make sure that it's a nice clean surface. And it kind of leaves like an oily residue on the display, so you're going to have to clean it pretty good with a microfiber cloth to get all that stuff off of it. And notice down here at the bottoms and kind of the sides, you'll have some leftover glue on there. So make sure you clean that off nice and good as well. You should see that it's turning into a little bit of a mess. Should have had a better cleanup plan here when I was doing this. So just make sure you have a napkin or something close by that you can help wipe down your station with. So again, just if you find bits and pieces that are hard to scrub off with the microfiber cloth, just use your spudger here and kind of get them to pull right off. Now you're going to want to do it until you get almost all the residue off of it. I mean, you can clean up a little bit in the mold once we put it in, but you want to make it look kind of like the display on the screen here, where everything's nice and cleaned up. If you have any questions about the stuff you use, just hit me up in the comments. If you want to see future videos, go ahead and subscribe to me. You can follow me on Twitter as well. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I hope to catch you on the next video.